Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Fountain of Truth. I'm Mike Garboyd and I'm sitting here with Mike Oulton.
One and only.
How you doing,
Mike
dude?
on Mike.
Mike on Mike. Open mic
Two
night.
mics enter. One mic leaves, so the other one stays in edit.
There's another mic right here too. A lot of mics.
Yeah.
How you doing, dude?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this place.
Yeah.
Anybody who watches, I hope people are watching your podcast and see how good you're doing. Because those podcasts are awesome.
I'm trying, man.
LinkedIn is on fire
Yeah.
with the podcast. So thanks for having me.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
We've been talking for a while now. We've talked about things we want to do together, obviously, but I love what you do with your podcast too. Like I've been following what you've been doing the last few months since we haven't been talking much, but it's been busy. I know you've been busy too, right?
Oh, big time. Well, so me basically, like when I discovered you guys here and found you, I was like, wow, this is awesome. Like you guys got an amazing thing. And then we are going to do business. And then something happened where I got this writing gig. And so I started writing and I was just like, I'm one of those guys that disappears. Like people would think, is that what happened to that Mike guy? Did he die? Like I just saw him, last week. It's like, no, I go artist because I'm a natural artist. I played sports and shit my whole life, right? But art has been the one thing that's always stayed constant in my life, right?
Yeah.
So I developed this like weird persona when it comes to writing. I just go like method into what I do, and I just block myself out from the world, right?
Yeah.
And since it's been COVID's kind of blocked us all out from the world. So it's actually was a perfect time for me to like dive into some products or
Yeah.
some projects.
Any kind of art, I find that you like people that aren't artistic don't understand the work and the trance you almost get into when you start a project. I know if I'm editing shit, I have to finish. I can't just like piece by piece by piece. It drives me insane because you get into a zone where it almost becomes easier. The more time you're spending on it, right?
Yep.
So I guess you've been just like in your office, just like
that's it. Yeah, we have a film coming out, a documentary that's about to drop in like 3 months. It's definitely Oscar-worthy film.
Cool.
Film from British Columbia here, about first responders and firefighters and PTSD, and like there's just been a lot happening, man. And it's so weird because like here's COVID. COVID shuts everything down, and then weird opportunities come up because of it.
Yeah.
And I realized that the opportunities come up because of the time. Before you wouldn't have the time to look at an opportunity in the eyes, right?
Yeah.
You're always looking down at its chest. No, you look at it at its eyes, right? Like you can't because your time is there. And now with this free time and stuff, I've been noticing that like, dude, straight up, the entertainment business that I was in, like as an entertainer, that was good, but it obviously requires people to sit around and laugh and do whatever, right? And enjoy it. So when that came, it forced me to think outside of my comfort zone, which I hadn't done in probably a decade. It's been really easy for about a decade. Just show up, make everyone laugh, tell a few laughs, have a few drinks, right? Eat the buffet and bounce. And that's how it's been. And dude, this just kind of like, you know what I mean? From the top rope right down onto me, man. Like it was like, wow, dude, I need to up my game. I'm like in my 40s, and I'm like, I've been coasting since my 30s, early 30s, and it's like the worst thing that you can ever happen when you finally wake up and realize, oh my god, I really am a one-trick pony.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's hard as a 40-year-old when you're not there yet.
No.
You know what I mean? But one day you wake up and you go, oh my god, like I should do more.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm already kind of there in my 30s where I definitely could have done way more with my 20s.
Yeah.
Went harder with things that I wish, like wrestling, I wish I went
Dream chaser
to the moon with it. But I didn't. I had other stuff going on. I wanted to have a life. Wrestling doesn't pay the bills unless you're in the big company. Like it just doesn't. So I didn't go as hard as I could. But now I'm getting back into it, and I'm 33, and I didn't keep myself in shape. I just let myself go, and I've gone to a few training sessions, and it's just like, man, this is gonna be fucking hard to do this again. But it's like I had so much potential that I can't let that go now. Like I gotta get back to that. I gotta do. It's side hustle season. I find like that's what now like COVID has done to people. If you were thinking of doing something that you always wanted to do, but you always didn't have the time, or you thought you didn't have time, you have the time now So I remember opening up this business, trying to find microphones just for this room alone.
Mm.
It was hard because so many people were starting podcasts. So many people were trying new things, which is awesome. It's needed. And I think people are realizing almost like it's made them be creative.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's way more creative minds now, businesses, business owners that can't afford to go to marketing teams now because the money's just not coming in like it used to. Now they have to think in a way they never had to before because they would just ask for help.
Yeah. It's a great equalizer. Like, this is taking people off of pedestals and has made grinders rise up and level up.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you were a grinder before COVID and you weren't getting any respect, if you continued what was happening, you are now working up that ladder of respect in your industry or whatever it is in life. You know what I mean? We needed this, as screwed up as that is, for guys, for men of our age, your age, my age. You're only 10 years younger than me, so 12. 12, right? But, for guys in our zone, we needed this, man. We needed to really be tested as to who we are and what we're made of. We can't obviously condone COVID because it sucks. Everything's locked, and who would want this? We wouldn't want this on our enemies. You know what I mean? Like, maybe I don't know. We wouldn't want this for our children.
No.
What we're going through is hard, but it's also telling us a lot about ourselves, man. Right? It's giving us perspective on what we truly can accomplish when the chips are down.
Yeah.
We haven't had a community or society down in chips since the 80s. The 80s, I remember. I remember my dad coming home with no money from work, or going out and working for peanuts, pretty much, right, in the 80s recession back in the early days, and not having heat in the house. You know what I mean? And like having to wear blankets or put up space heaters. He was a commercial painter, so he'd have all these heaters for drying paint, so he'd bring them in the house and heat the house, right? And everybody just lost money. There's this giant recession, depression almost, right? And that generation felt that. We might have been born at that time. We weren't really feeling the ills of that, right? But that our parents felt that. But there hadn't been anything since then. That's like 40 years of just entitlement and highfalutin living. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For people. And sure, there's been a lot of grief, but there's been no test, no war. Like even the Gulf War, was that even a war?
Yeah.
It was a theft. You know what I mean? It was a robbery.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't a war, dude. We were just all accomplices in that.
Yeah.
There's been no test for us, and this was our test, man. This was our World War I, World War II test.
Yeah.
This was our Spanish flu test, right? To see what we're made of as humans. And, dude, with the high suicide rate that's been happening and the overdose rate and, people divorce rate has gone up and, anger.
Yeah.
We're failing.
We're failing hard, man. We should technically come out stronger than we ever have been after this.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's happening. I think some people are. I mean, it's really messed up because it seems like the opinionated of each side are the only ones getting their words across right now. And just the people that are just good fucking people, their words aren't being heard at all. And there's more, I think most people are that. And it's just, we're spending all this time where it's like we know that we need to protect loved ones and be there for loved ones right now, but then anybody that isn't our loved one, fuck them.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's different for like this business world that we're in now. Like I never was. I always worked a 9 to 5. This is my first time as a full-on entrepreneur. Besides having side hustles, this is my first time I've jumped full on into the water. And everybody that I meet is kind of just. They're just good people, and they're trying to help one another.
Yeah.
But online, that's the complete opposite, where it's everybody's out to get one another. Friendships are ending, like I said, high divorce rates. Everybody's fighting. Suicide and overdoses. That has a lot to do with the money that they're handing out that I know they need to hand out. But like overdoses, when you're giving homeless $900 every 2 weeks because they made $5,000 or more in 2019, that's a death wish when they're buying toxic drugs.
It is.
the reason why I think it goes to conspiracy theorists so much, like what's going on in the world today, is because it just seems like it adds up way too fucking simply.
Mm-hmm.
Like this whole toxic drugs that are being sold, it seems like
Everything fits together as a conspiracy puzzle of change, right?
yeah. And I think it's the time now. Like 20 years ago, if you said any of this shit that seems real now,
Mm-hmm.
you sound like a batshit crazy conspiracy theorist. But now, with all the technology, how
Yeah.
things are in the open, like people in power are getting caught doing shady shit,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all in the open, and where people put that out, and there's still the side that's like, oh, it's just conspiracy theorists. It's like,
Yeah.
no, here's the fucking video of it. Like, this is
Yeah.
footage of like exactly what's wrong with politicians, how the world works. The Canadian government officials saying don't travel, next day getting on a plane and going on a family vacation to
Mm-hmm.
Florida. Like they think we're dumb.
Yeah.
And I think when you start questioning that, instantly one side of the spectrum thinks you're just a insane fucking conspiracy theorist that has all hate in your heart, and
Yeah.
you believe this is fake. And I don't think COVID's fake at all.
I don't either.
I don't. I think it's real,
Mhm.
but they definitely have benefited somehow. Like they've done something where it's just like they can control and just uh, earn from it.
Yeah.
It just seems like there's too much money in this. Handing out businesses about 20, 40, $60,000 loans,
Yep.
and then expecting them to pay it back when COVID is still happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then they expect these businesses to be okay, like coming out of this, to pay that back. Like I'm scared when you hear about Trudeau talking about global reset this,
Yeah.
global reset that. What does that mean? Maybe businesses don't have to pay these loans back, but then they're owned by the government?
Yeah.
That seems real.
We're totally at risk of that. Like you got to think back in like before Christ, if you believe in God.
Yeah.
Right before Christ, the theory of fear-based control was invented. Romans. Let's give it to the Romans. They invented everything else. And you know what they found is that if your citizens fear something that of any kind of repercussion like death or imprisonment or slavery, torture, that they would react differently when they wouldn't misbehave and they would follow laws and rules, right?
Yeah.
And every day, if you ever remember with the show Rome, how they would have the street caller out on the corner yelling out, oh, the dictation from the king and the emperor, right? And you can do this, you can't do this today, you can't do it, right? They would actually dictate to the people all day, every day. And if you disobeyed, you would be killed, tortured, enslaved, right?
Yeah.
As time gone on and humans evolved, dude, and television and media came into the picture that started changing the way people thought and the way they followed people, right? Government, we started electing people, we started giving a choice, right? They started realizing that fear didn't work anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and when you got to about the mid 70s when they abolished all of the capital punishment in Canada, they knew then that people weren't scared of death anymore. People will still go out there and satisfy their urges to kill or to rob or to do crime or to do whatever, fraud, whatever it is, because the penalty wasn't harsh enough.
Yeah.
So here we go rolling into this next big century, and they know that fear doesn't work, and they know that prisons don't work, right? And they know that, you know, you can't just kill people anymore. What's the next step? And the next step is obviously for control is persuasion. So instead of, and this is where clickbait really fucking does it, like clickbait. You know, when you ever read clickbait, dude, when you're like, oh, okay, read around and something says on there like, oh, you know, find out why men go impotent by 44 years old. And here you are, you know, a 43-year-old, and you're like, oh my God, am I going to go impotent at 44 years old? So you click on it, right?
Yeah.
They've discovered that works in real life too. So if you are really worried about something, you click on it and you go to follow it. And they figured that out in life that if the mainstream population is scared of something, then they will be persuaded to go that direction. Now, there's no fear of death or anything, or slavery or anything like that. The true fear is exclusion. And they found out this is why technology booms. It changes every day. Get a new computer every month. Get a new cell phone every year. All right, get a new computer every 6 months. A new cell phone every year. Right? It's about that fear of being left behind. And they've mastered it, dude. They've mastered it, man. Just like with this vaccine. The fear of maybe not having the vaccine and being left behind, you know?
Yeah.
The passport, not having your COVID passport. You know, like this is what they've created with this, and this is why people are so crappy. A lot of people are crappy these days, is because everyone's so selfish. They're afraid that they themselves are going to be excluded. Never mind your community.
Yeah.
We're worried about ourselves being excluded, and they've created this, dude.
Yeah.
Right? And this is where we are. And honestly, like the only way we're getting through this is to just adapt to it.
Yeah.
There's no change. Right? There's no change, dude. It's just like wrestling. I'm sorry, I'm about to let the cat out of the bag. It's all scripted.
Yeah.
This life is scripted for you.
Oh, 100%.
Your only choice you have is to adapt your own game to the game that's being played.
Yeah. And that's why I think just like independent everything is the way of the future.
If we
want it, if we want to actually get real information, like watch real shit on TV, we have to have an independent just overthrowing of it. Same with like politicians. Like I think the only way like in North America, for Canada, United States, for them to actually change, it's not going to be a liberal or a conservative. It's going to be an independent coming in with a bunch of money that uses their own money to fund their run. Like that's why I think Donald Trump like looked like such a piece of shit for the most part, is he was a billionaire using his party's money to go and do all of his touring and shit. When in reality, if you were a billionaire, if you want to look good to the people, it's like, no, keep that, give the taxes or something that we're spending to the people. I'll use my billions of dollars to run and get a good team of people that will never agree on every little fucking thing. No humans agree on every subject completely the same. Awesome. And that's what politics tries to make you think, is that like, if you were in this party, they believe this. Everybody in that party doesn't believe every one of those things. That's just what they go for. The only way you're going to get like an actual consensus is if you actually get people with different mind frames to come to a consensus.
Yeah, tribunal type shit, yeah.
And they don't work together, because literally politics is one party's in power, the other party is making that party's life a living hell as they're running with all these different like just whining until it's been how many years, and then other party overthrows the other one because the public's pissed off, and then it's the same thing.
It's a cycle. And right? It's cycle of power.
And when they're owning our media,
well, that's the thing. And what you're doing here is what needs to happen, right? People who have the ability to do this need to step out and create their own media. And this is where it's all going, dude. What you're doing here is going to be considered the golden years of podcasting. Inviting a guy in, sitting here in a room, nice and, the lights are on, it's nice and quiet, you get to talk. They're going to look back at you as like one of the pioneers of the future of podcasting, because the future of podcasting is everybody, like just how social media is, or how it was for us growing up or whatever in our lives, and how it was like it grew, it became something and everybody had it. It's going to be the same with podcasts. Podcasts, everybody's going to have one day.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just, and people are like, fuck, I don't have the time. What are you talking about? This guy's crazy, this and that. But there's been a lot of people who called out and said, hey, get involved with social media, get involved with this. They can see the growth. All you got to do is look at how many people react to podcasts every day. Yeah. And you can see that shit, this thing's going to grow huge exponentially, right? This thing's going to be huge. They're going to have a fucking podcast from space. One day. It's going to happen.
They probably already do.
They probably already do. There's like 3 million podcasts running every day on iHeart or any of those podcast stations, or wherever you get your podcasts, right? So you think about that, man. That's just the beginning. Yeah. And there's 3 million things. Because we're all locked down, there's more podcasts starting every day. Yeah. And that trend won't end, right? What's going to happen is it's going to get easier, and podcasts are going to get shorter, and they're going to be more succinct to the point. Like there's not going to be a lot of chatter. Yeah. Right. They're going to be like direct to the point. Yeah. And like people are going to have one if they're going to get any sort of social credit or credibility with their business. You're going to have a podcast.
Yeah, I think it's the definition of a podcast being so like it doesn't really have one. That's what's beautiful about it, is like it can be a 2-hour podcast. It could be 10 minutes. It could be like an infomercial. It could be audio. It could be video. It could be both. There's no rule.
No.
So it's literally just promotion. That's what it is. And it's just, so when you say that, it's mostly like a video diary or an audio diary. It's like the new modern diary. It's the new journal. It's the new blog, like a blog. If you're doing a video blog, that's a podcast. I used to call them video blogs. Now they're just a podcast. So it's like, what is a podcast even from 10 years from now. Like you said, this is like the old school. This is
will
like
be old school one day.
Yeah, and in the future, I think it is. It's going to be everybody voicing their opinions that way. I don't think people have realized how much easier it is to do voice memos on your phone than typing. And I think it's going to probably get to that where instead of doing Facebook updates through text, it's like say what you're thinking, like and release it. So yeah, it's basically like snippet podcasts.
I even see like social media getting destroyed by podcasts. I think like places like Facebook. I really think Facebook's on a timeline. I think that we're going to see the demise of it. I think that like any of the social, you think about all the shit we grew up with that's gone or changed, right? Nothing lasts forever, man. Right. And when something comes under so much scrutiny from the public, like Facebook and all these social media sites, and by the government, eventually something is going to happen to it. And what will happen is we will evolve as a culture, as a social media culture. We'll go from taking pictures of our food and posting them to giving 5-minute reviews on all our food. That will become the norm.
Yeah.
Right? The internet will change in a way in the next decade to a point where it's nice and where people are going to require you to be, they say, oh, be authentic. Authenticity is going to change as well. Authenticity is going to come down to personality instead of, belief system. This belief system we have right now, like Black Lives Matter, all these things, which are all great, but this belief system where we're like, no, you know what? You looked at me wrong. Cancel. That shit has to change.
Yeah.
And it will. Unfortunately, anybody who's getting caught up in it right now, whether you deserve it or not, you're part of the transition to the next level of the internet, which is going to require people to be themselves. And being yourself means, just taking a picture of a food is going to be weak. It's going to be considered like, oh, you're so tacky and weak. It's going to be like, oh, here I am at the Mediterranean Cafe with this, light update with this, my dessert, right? It's going to be requiring people to be smarter and more connective, right? And be more open to connect with people. And so the requirement to connect is going to be more intellectual, right? With it and can see it, dude. And that's why podcasts take off so much. An absolute nobody in Port Coquitlam. We can put out a podcast and affect 100 people, right? In the future, that'll be nothing. Your requirements are going to be way more. You're going to have way more people looking to hear from you on a regular basis and having the time to listen to you on a regular. We're going to work podcasts into our regular thing. So podcasts are going to shorten to like 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to be 5-10 minute episodes, shorts. Right. Yeah. So you have podcasts. Now we have podcast shorts that'll come up next. Right. And then that'll be the basis of all social media.
It's like a circle of social media, really, because that's kind of where we're at with different platforms. Like you got the Facebook, the Instagrams. Instagram was always very artistic, like very visual. But then now TikTok is like the condensed version of Instagram, where it's literally 10-second clips, and it took off with this generation. And what's really bizarre about this is because everybody calls it the TikTok generation because they have no patience for shit, and they're just on to the next thing constantly. Well, then why are podcasts like Joe Rogan, 2-hour-long podcasts, also doing so fucking well when it's a 2-hour-long podcast? Nobody seems to have that in a day, and it's just like, it's because podcasts are so intriguing that this generation of no patience and stuff, it's so good that they forget about that.
Yeah.
And so it's like we're in this weird limbo of quick, fast, this almost like senseless media.
Yeah.
To really, really like you're watching Lord of the Rings every freaking day if you're watching Joe Rogan, right? So it's crazy. I want to I think it could be a balance of both, and I think podcasts might get that definition in the future where it's just like you got short podcasts, you got podcast snippets, and then you have long conversation.
Yep. And the platforms will improve where you'll be able to like do a podcast and blast it out all over the world. Right now, you're basically, you do a podcast, you're kind of exposed to just your area until you pay for it, right?
Yeah.
So, eventually it'll be just, it'll be everywhere, and there'll be so many platforms, right?
Yeah.
And I think what the real key now, if you are someone that wants to plan 10 years ahead in your life and you love podcasts, what you start doing now is you start collecting and producing podcasts that aren't your own. And what you're essentially doing is like the old days of studios with rappers and artists that come in and right, they collect them, sign on the line, you know what I mean, man, you're one of our artists, you know what I mean, and you come and record and work with them. That's the secret for the future, is to start collecting a roster of podcast people that have directed podcasts. So I have 4 podcasts under me. There's about to be 4 more being made. And basically what we have is we have our High Freeze podcast, which deals with like human rights issues. We smoke some weed and we talk about current events, and we, have activists on and rappers and just different people that are making a difference, right? We have a 90s sports podcast that is starting this week. We're going to convert it from other 90s and just go right at 90s sports and do what ifs and talk about like the legends and all that stuff, right? And then we have a rap podcast, Vancouver's first real rap podcast. You know what I mean? Like we got a bunch of different ones, but the key with all those that I see is, you create different arms. So these arms can reach out to brands, because in the future, these brands aren't going to be with this cancel and this fast forward, get through the ads, I don't care, about shoot, like it's not going to matter after a while. It's going to become a blur of images to people. People are going to want substance, right? And they're going to want to know, why should I? Because everything's getting more expensive. You look at the new Nike ones that whatever came out, those new shoes. They were just on Twitter. I saw them like $250. I'm like, fuck, $250? Like really? Like Jesus, man! Like shoes are going to be more and more expensive, right? So people are going to be like, well, why should I pay $300 for these shoes? And then you're going to want to have somebody that tells all about the shoe and talks to someone who's worn the shoe, and people will be like, yeah, I love that shoe, right? Because of the podcast, and that's that's where it's going, man, right? And so where these brands used to get rap stars and athletes and celebrities to rep their shit, it's going to be over. Celebrities, you can't count on them anymore. You can't count that they won't drink the juice and go and have sex with an underage girl. You can't trust them anymore.
Yeah.
Right? That they're not going to say something stupid on a podcast like I just did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All the time. Right?
Yeah.
You can't trust them, man.
Yeah.
So they're going to go to regular guys like you, dude.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to look at you. They're going to look at your track record. They're going to look at you, filming a podcast for 3-4 years. And they're going to go, that's a guy we need to invest money in, because he can capture a crowd and he can hold a conversation. Right? And he's going to talk about our product just like he did on his show. Right? People love it. That's the secret, dude. And if you can harness a bunch of podcasters to work under your umbrella, and all I do is I just produce them and stuff, right? Like my partner and I, we just work it, right? And in the future, that'll pay off.
Yeah, that's the goal here, man. I want to, like, I don't do much live streaming. It's a bit of a headache because there's so much that can go wrong while it's happening. But that's my goal, is to have literally a show in here, at least one show a day, live streaming out of here, different subjects, and have different hosts. And like that's since before we got this location, that was the goal. We were already doing it in 2019 when we like started getting our brand like kind of known online, and we were just like pushing what our ideology, what we were going to do, and we reached out to a ton of podcasters, and it was April 2019, or no, it would have been April 2020. Yeah, it was April 2020, but we were kind of from home because we hadn't had this place open yet, and COVID just hit. So me and Aaron were working from home, and we're like, we need to promote, we need to get podcasts. So we just like reached out to a bunch of podcasters and just did free podcast features every day of the week for a month. And like one podcast got Mondays, and just took their most recent episode and promoted it, and it was great. It actually, like, our numbers on different social media platforms went up.
Yeah.
It wasn't the greatest, just because it was from different areas in BC and stuff. So it's like we didn't get that push from this like local Tri-Cities that we wanted to come in here to see the space. But we still have this like huge following that we get these podcasters reaching out to us every now and then, just like, how's it going? We want to check it out. We live in North Van, but definitely would love to come by the studio. And it's just reaching out. And I think if we're all doing the same thing, it's like I'll bring up pro wrestling. The industry's changed drastically since I quit. Like I quit in 2015. In the amount of movements that have happened in just all aspects of life, politics are kind of moving their way out of wrestling. Like it's just not really a thing. And I think, I don't know, I think that's just, if you're a podcaster, you are helping other podcasters out in wrestling. wrestlers were so egotistical
Yeah.
that they didn't want other wrestlers to succeed, even though you have the same fucked up, stupid passion
Yeah.
that is not many people in the world have that passion.
Yeah.
Yet you are acting out of hate towards everybody that you probably would get along with because you have the same stupid passion,
Mm-hmm.
but you're like been basically bred to think that they're all your competition.
Yeah, that's how it is, man. It's such an aggressive sport. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and you got to think that's probably at the lower levels. I think if you break free of that thinking, that's when you go upper echelon WWE.
Yeah.
Because there's a mentality that has to come with that. Like you're doing big moves in front of big stages and getting dropped on your head. Shane McMahon jumping off the top. You know what I mean? Like Brock Lesnar breaking his neck. You know, like those guys are playing with big chips, right? And I think you need to get to that mentality of team when you get to that level. Guys who continue to think low level, like, oh, it's all about me, they end up getting hurt.
Yeah.
Because some guy goes, oh, really? It's all about you, eh? Well, I'm in a match with you next week. I'm going to make it all about me. And then it becomes personal, you know? And I think that's what the X factor is for wrestlers. Because I've known a few wrestlers.
Yeah.
And there's probably a couple of them who are going to watch this when I send it to them, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, you know, they would probably say, like, a lot of it is attitude.
Oh, 100%.
Attitude, right? It's how you look at what you're doing, you know? Like, if you take care of yourself, you'll probably take care of other people as your peers as well, right?
Yeah.
You know, if you disrespect yourself as to not take care of yourself while you're trying to be a wrestler, chances are you're going to get hurt or you're going to hurt someone else too, right?
Yeah, and that's the worst thing you can do in wrestling.
Is hurt someone else.
You're not going to, especially like if you don't have any pull and you hurt somebody else, you're not coming back. It's
political.
It's so political.
That's why your podcast is going to be amazing if you do it.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
When you do it.
Yeah. Well, we definitely like just with wrestling. I the amount of people like in this last I'd say since I've opened this business, and just amount of different movements that have gone through the wrestling industry in the past 2 years, and people being pushed out. It's a really the community that gets along right now. So it's kind of like all the talks and everything is like we got to make this industry better once we can do shows again. If people are going to be shitty people, we don't want them. Back in the day, it was like, oh, if they're a draw, we'll book them. Blah, blah, blah. Now it's like I don't give a shit if they're a draw. Man. We can make a new draw. We can bring in outside talent if we have to. We're not just gonna like shitty people aren't gonna get ahead anymore. Yeah, it's gonna be the people that actually like grit their teeth and work damn hard. Yeah, and it's so many industries haven't been that way, and I think now it's like it's gonna after this all it's gonna be the hardworking people I think are gonna finally get the benefits of working hard. I'm going to be interested to see with all these people working from home once COVID isn't an excuse for numbers being down for like sales teams and stuff working from home. All these companies are like, oh, we're saving so much money. People work from home. We'll just not lease our building anymore. Let the lease run up. These people work from home from now on. As soon as COVID's done, I'd love to see if the numbers actually go up or if these people working from home suck.
Yeah, I think this whole working from home thing is like fucking slippery slope. Oh man. It could really backfire when this is all over, right? Like it's shitty because some people don't have a choice. You know, I really believe that they're pushing us to stay home, no matter what. Amazon is through the roof. Skip the dishes is part of life. You know, home-based schooling is reality. Kids are having to do it in Ontario. They're going to have to start doing it now for the next couple months. Yeah. It's reality, man. Like, stay home. Why? Like, this is the only question that I've asked is why am I being pushed to stay in my house? Right? And that's really the only thing we have to figure out, like with all this. Why are we being stayed there? And I think honestly, what it is, dude, is we're being softened as a society. You know, we're being softened. We're being like these kid killers shooting up places. It's hardcore, man. You know, private jails being flooded with people, millions and millions of people in prison. It's crazy. Sexual offenders online luring kids, you know, for their pleasure never happened before in my life. This only was the last couple of years that predators have skyrocketed. Yeah. Dude, fucking people. You know what the other one is? People going into people's homes and stealing their pets.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
What the hell is this? Dude, they go in your house and they steal your child, your pet.
Yeah.
Nothing else, just your pet. It's like it's ruthless, dude. Our world is ruthless, dude, and we need a softening of this. And this is what this is. This is softening everybody. And it's kind of like when you got a prisoner in a cage and he's freaking out. I used to see this in the sheriff's van, okay? When they used to take us from prison to prison, they take you in the back of the sheriff's van. And you're locked in there with the shackles in your hands and your shackles, and you're locked in a cage sitting on steel. If you got to go to the bathroom, you better be able to hold it for 4 hours. It's one of those scenarios, right? And we saw a guy there. He's like, bam, 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 kicking. It's like, if you can imagine, it's a little cage about this size,
Yeah.
right? And then you got to sit in, and there's another guy sucker sitting beside you right there, right? And you're like shackled, and that's it. And then there's a plexiglass in cage, and then there's another guy right there, and then this guy was smashing, smashing, smashing. And sheriff stopped when we got to our stop, let everybody out, but let that guy sit in the cage. Bang, 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 bang. Rah, rah, rah. It started getting hot. It was middle of summer. Bang, bang. It starts slowing down. Bang, right? Like he's getting tired, right? Hot. All of a sudden, no banging. Hour later, they come back, grab him, peel him out. He oozes out of the thing. He's all soft now, right? Because he's blown his load. And he's freaked out, and he realized that nobody cares.
Yeah.
So he's softened. That's what they're doing. They're softening us. They're shooting blows at us, and we're taking them.
Yeah.
They're trying to ban vape right now. The vape industry's under fire, man.
Yeah.
They're saying that kids are vaping too much, when in reality, less kids are vaping today than they were in 2017. The numbers are fully down.
Yeah.
Kids just use it to get high. They're not using vape. They're using shit to get high vapes.
Yeah.
The weed vapes.
Yeah.
Right? But they're trying to ban it, man. And it's like forever the vape industry has been taking hits, and they just need to fight back.
Yeah.
And that's where we are with all this. And if people don't understand what I'm saying, is that we've been taking things, so that's why change is inevitable. And change that we don't like is going to happen. We're going to become communists, socialists. It's happening.
Yeah.
They don't see it. People don't see it. You're getting free money. Does anybody question free money? We're going to a communist state, and they're going to hide it with socialism, and they're going to put brown women in front of us and say, this is our new leader. And they're going, and that's no offense. I don't want to get canceled. You cancel me. I don't care. I got nothing to do. But that's what they do, man. Kamala Harris is there. She isn't just there. She's there for a reason. They're going to create new ways to persuade us to stay at home, collect universal income, and not communicate with each other and create coups to go against governments.
Yeah.
So it is, dude. It's it's plain and simple. But they can't just do that. No. They have to manipulate us, and they have to kind of,
That's where I was opened up to just so much information since COVID's been around. Is talking to a ton of Eastern Europeans, business owners that came from communist countries, grew up in them, moved out here to get away from it, and are like, pretty much what we grew up in a communist country, our countries are wrapping it up in a nice little fucking package right now and presenting us as a gift.
Oh yeah.
When they, like, every one of them has seen right through it and told me, like, don't fall for this shit. And it's just like, when you it's one thing to be a conspiracy theorist and always be against whatever information is being told to you, but when you're being told by someone who's gone through what's going on right now in a different country 30 years ago, and they're like, this is the exact same thing, but they've learned from the mistakes of how those countries did it, and they're doing it in a way where it seems like they're being nice people. It's fucked.
Everybody forgets the euro.
Yeah.
Oh, the euro. Fuck, we don't even talk about the euro. I remember when the euro came in, everyone was up in arms. Like, what? We're getting one coin for the entire Europe? It was so hard for them to do. Right? They tried to make countries conform, but countries bucked back so much they went broke.
Yeah.
There was no plan, there was no conformity because everyone had an opinion. Well, guess what, everybody? You're going to see the euro, the North American digital money, right, coming. And you can't just say, okay, give me all your money, stop, no, money, stop, right? I'll hand in your money. You have 30 days to hand in any money and exchange it for credits or whatever. It would be an outrage. It would be bigger riot than the Vancouver douchebag riot. There'd be a bigger thing than Rodney King. It'd be a bigger thing than Black Lives Matters. it'd be massive, world changing if you tried to do that. So you need to introduce leverage, sickness, death, conform or die, right?
Yeah.
That's it, dude. It's plainly obvious. This is where we're going with the euro. The euro was a failed attempt, but it was just a sample, right? It was a sample. It was a test to see if they could do it, right? And as you know, North America follows Europe
Oh,
with everything.
100%.
So it's going there, right? The Brexit exit, like, dude, this is all just signs of things that are going to happen, right?
Well, it's just I remember the story. It was, I think it was like 2012 or something, but it was like Stephen Harper, Barack Obama, and the Mexican president.
Mm-hmm.
They all signed an agreement to basically a North American Union of like open border policies and all this stuff. This is a long time ago. So when everybody, let's say,
Harvey's here.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like when they had this agreement, um, they agreed to these open borders, but it never was talked about again. And CNN actually ran a whole story about it.
Mm-hmm.
And when they ran that story, the guy got fired instantly, and they removed it from their like websites, everything. Like it ran one story on their TV, and they never talked about it again. And when you see like these puzzle pieces being like that, it's not some like, oh, let's think about this for like a condensed period of time. It's like, no, they plan a lot of stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that if you're talking about like a North American euro or whatever, they signed this in the open how many years ago? Now it's 10 years later.
It takes a generation to change things, right?
Yeah.
You gotta change the thoughts of a generation. That's millions and millions and millions of people that you can change all at once, and then it becomes the norm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So this generation Z that's coming, these kids, they are the true pioneers of change. They said the year 2K, the millennials were. No. Gen Z is the next species of human. This is where we cross and evolve. Because what's happened with Gen Z, that's people that are born like the last couple of years, basically, right? They're all digital. Everything's digital. They've learned to go to Amazon and click and buy.
Yeah.
They don't know money. They don't have money in their hands. Okay, the first time that these kids are going to experience money, in a sense, is going to be working a job where they get a tip. But that's probably going to go away too, because I just read that the Canadian government collects up to minimum $350 million, or not the government, but workers collect $350 million in tips that are go unaccounted for, right? So you think as a government, like, wow, that's a lot of money, man, but we should be collecting taxes on. So they're going to eliminate that too one day. It's going to be, look, we've already seen it. Have you seen those credit cards for the coins?
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry about your change. Just tap your change and collect your change on a thing. I thought of that 10 years ago, honest to God. And I was like, but you can just tap and save your change. Dude, that's what's going to happen. You're now going to have this change card. Oh, it's just random change. No more piggy banks. No more messy coins getting all sticky in a jar, right? No, it's scooping them out and exchanging them. It's so hard.
Yeah.
Just keep it right here, right? And it's what's happening. So, these kids, these Gen Zs, are going to be the ones who shout from the mountaintop to get rid of real coins and get into digital, right?
Yeah.
Okay, do you know anybody who's bought a Bitcoin?
We did.
Yeah, you did? Yeah, how's it going?
Amazing.
Right?
Well, I mean, we did put it all into this business.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh shit, we got hit with a pandemic. Maybe we should have waited a couple of years because with Bitcoin now what it's worth. But shit, man, that's I've heard, like, I basically listened to this like audio book. It was like a podcast. It was by a guy who used to be a sports journalist, and he invested in Bitcoin like really early on, and he wrote a book called Bitcoin Billionaire. And it's literally because he put like a couple $1,000 into Bitcoin in the very beginning. Yeah. And when it was worth pennies, and then all of a sudden it was worth, I think it was the last high when I forget, it was not even near what it is right now. And the guy was a billionaire. He was legit a billionaire. Yeah. Just from this digital coin. It's and I don't understand stocks. I don't understand anything. I try to understand cryptocurrency, but it's just like, how does this money come out of thin air? Yeah. And it's like, how do you create, like, that's just money in general, right?
It just goes back to what I said at the beginning, persuasion. So you create something that tells people, if you don't have this, you're going to get left out.
Yeah.
And look at the surge. People have spent billions. the richest guy in the person with the most billionaires, most Bitcoin are those twins, I think, from Facebook, the two twins, remember from the movie or whatever, Social Network. I think they hold the most Bitcoins. They invested billions into it, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to be trillionaires eventually if Bitcoin takes off.
Yeah.
But it's a persuasion factor. They already knew, dude. Bitcoin is coined as this non-governmental, non-regulated money system. Do you really think America would let that happen? No, man. That's why they can't find the founder.
Yeah.
The founder isn't in charge of Bitcoin anymore. Some government is in charge of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And they just understand that we need to persuade people out of cash. You can't buy well, you can buy drugs with Bitcoin, right? But
black market.
But still, like, you know, most of drug deals, illegal drug deals, not done by the government, are done with cash.
Yeah.
Seen $1 million in cash. It's like, I've seen it. It's like $1 million, right? And it's like, that's gone. Those days are done.
Yeah.
They want to eliminate that shit. Money is so primitive, but it's been around for 2,000 years.
Yeah.
Like, it's time. That's what they think, right? And
they're gonna use this pandemic too as like, that's another way to push out money, is cleanliness. Like another, don't use your own cards, like you see them on all the signs at businesses, like, please, if you can, use your tap card and blah blah blah. It's just like, so really, I think that's where it's gonna come down to, is like, you can have cash, but it's gonna be really frowned upon, and like there's gonna be businesses that turn it down because we're gonna make it feel like they should, because it's for the safety of their customers and their staff and blah blah blah. It's just,
and the big scam that they're gonna do is this onslaught, and parents, get ready for this. This onslaught of digital currency that's going to come at us in the next 3 years. Bitcoin is a dinosaur. If you have Bitcoin, start preparing to get out of Bitcoin, because once the yen drops digitally, and once the euro drops digitally, or the rupee drops digitally, or the North American dollar drops digitally, or Canadian drops digitally, Bitcoin's toast.
Yeah.
Once the government gets in there, private sector is toast. It's just, look at weed.
Yeah.
Weed, they fucked it up so bad. They took over. It's toast. Private sector's toast. I know people who grow weed that have a surplus of weed that can't sell it because of all the regulations now.
Yeah.
Right? They've been commissioned by the government to sell weed, and then they do it, and then they're like, whoa, no, we can't take it. Our numbers are down. We can't take it. So they have all this surplus of weed. They have to sell it illegally to get their money back.
Yeah.
Government took over, dude, and it's gonna happen.
Dude, that's all I hear. It's the only way that legal growers are making any money right now is with their unreported weight that they sell off to the side, because the amount that they're getting charged to do it, the amount that they're getting paid to do it is not nearly enough. Plus, I mean, Canada fucked up royally with weed legalization. Like, we were the first place in the history of legalization to lose money doing it in the first year. Like, you heard about Washington, Colorado, all these people that did it privately, the way they did it. Billions of dollars in taxes made in the first year. Canada, put a bunch of government officials that have no idea how to grow pot. And nobody that knows how to grow pot is gonna go, yeah, I've been growing it for 40 years in my basement, and I can grow it for you. Like, nobody trusts that.
No.
So it's shit weed for a fucking premier price, and it's teaching, it's young pot smokers that it's okay to spend $20 on a pre-rolled joint that is shit weed.
Dude, and they do it. They do it, and they go with their friends, and they smoke 3 guys on a $20 joint, right? And then they walk away feeling the same. Like, it's a scam. It's the biggest hustle ever in Canadian history. The only hustle will be the next big hustle. And this is what I say, like, if you are somebody out there who has a shitload of money, if I had millions, all right, to invest, even if I did have millions, I wouldn't do this. But I was saying, like, if I had nothing to do, 100% I would start a podcast for my business. Whatever my business is, 100% start a podcast. Don't be stupid. If you have a business right now, invest some money in yourself and do a podcast. Number 2, the big thing is energy. Energy is a really big thing. If you have enough money to invest in it, I would invest in energy this year. I think those stocks are going to go through the roof. If you're in weed and all these chaotic stocks, get out of it. Weed is so bad to be in.
Yeah.
And anybody who's like, oh, I've made lots of money off of weed. You've also lost lots of money on weed stocks because it's so unstable, right? Energy is the one thing that will start changing this year. We're going to start looking at renewable energy and energy sources. And if you're a baller and you can afford it, start making energy and start selling that, man, right? Start off small. You just need a small generation of energy and then you can sell that. Right? That's going to become a legitimate side hustle for people. And the other thing is create your own digital cryptocurrency. Start doing it because just like the weed industry was, how remember when it first went legal, weed, and there wasn't enough weed?
Yeah.
Now there's a whole bunch of weed because the government got really paranoid that there wasn't going to be enough weed, so they started handing out licenses and commissioning people at a huge phenomenal rate, giving them bigger houses or bigger facilities to grow in, more permits, right? And now we got an abundance and there's too much. The same's going to happen with digital currency. Digital currency is going to hit the market like huge. People are going to be like, oh my God, digital currency. I never got a chance to buy Bitcoin, but I'm buying into the Canadian currency, right? Or the American dollar digital, and they're going to offer you a little bit more on your money. So, you know, a dollar is going to be worth $1.10. You know what I mean? To encourage people to get out of money and into digital, right? It's what's going to happen, but there will become a demand for it. If it flies too hard and they push it too hard, there's going to be a demand. So they're going to have to do the same thing as weed, dude. They're going to have to commission smart people who are building digital money and building these digital coins, because that's all it is, dude. All you're doing is collecting scrap data and turning it into massive amounts of data that nobody can get. It's kind of like a diamond, right? So this is my interpretation of Bitcoin. So it's like a diamond, right? Very rare. When you find a diamond, that's so fucking rare. And if you have 1,000 diamonds, oh my God, that's super rare, right? You know, you have 1,000,000, oh, right? And that's kind of what the Bitcoin is like. There's all this massive amounts of data that are collected that you can't get regularly, right? And so these massive amounts of data become this thing, right? So it's just it's almost like a dick wagging thing. Bitcoin feels like, oh, I got this Bitcoin because it's this mass amount of data. And that's why it takes so long to mine it, right? Because you have to mine all this fucking data, right? So start doing it now. You start setting up servers to mine for data right now. Within 5 years, dude, you're going to be rich. You're going to be filthy rich, richer than you can ever imagine, right? And all you got to do is just, you know, invest all your money into high-powered servers. Make sure you store them in a swimming pool so they don't overheat. You know what I mean? There's a lot going on there. Dude. There's a lot going on.
There's so much going on, and it's so much to wrap your head around. Like,
dude, I think about it all the time, but I'm not a conspiracy guy, okay? And I gotta state this, like, I do believe in some conspiracies. Sure, we all do. This is our generation, right? But it's just history repeats itself always, and you've heard that growing up, and we never really paid attention to what that meant until you start getting older in life and you start seeing history repeat itself. You know, high-waisted jeans back again. You know, 80s clothing is back again. Right? Like in a night creeping up into grunge. I see guys wearing grungy shit now, and I'm like, everything repeats itself, 100%. Right? And you know, we are in a repeat mode. History, this has all happened before. Change has happened. Industrial revolution happened. Sexual revolution changed things. Technical revolution was next, right? Now we got this. This is a new revolution. If anybody is wondering how to get around it, you don't. Those days of getting around things are gone. People who set this up are way too smart. They're way smarter than us. They set this up, and the only thing you can do is figure out your game and how you are going to survive and thrive within the system that's here. So you create the system within the system. It's the only way. If you fight from now on, you're going to get canceled. Canceling isn't just for celebrities. It's everybody. And they're looking for ways to do it, and it will happen. And you just have to adjust your game, right?
You can't cancel somebody that doesn't believe, like, that just doesn't stop, though. That's the thing. They can get canceled by certain people. But if you keep going, and
you got to keep going. Right. The thing is, cancel culture is going to be here forever.
Oh, 100%.
It's going to be here. It's begun. It's here. It's effective, and it's working. There's some angry people that are behind it. You know, I watched an interview with an actor named Jeremy Piven just yesterday about Entourage, right? And the guy just fucking had a bad shake, man. Like he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. His character on Entourage led him to becoming canceled
Yeah.
in a sexual harassment, and he's not that kind of guy.
Yeah.
I've followed that guy my whole life. He's one of my favorite actors.
Yeah.
And he got canceled. He's gone. He's doing stand up now and doing movies. But even he said, like, just roll with it. Like, what can you do?
When it's innocent or guilty before innocent now. It's see people losing their jobs over false allegations, and it's sad.
Yeah.
But I think we should wrap this one up today, and we'll do another one because I love talking to you, Mike.
Yeah, it was all doom and gloom and conspiracy, eh?
Yeah. Oh, that's the world right now,
That's
and
the world
honestly, I'm not even. I don't really doesn't affect me like
No,
it used
me
to.
either.
It's so. It's living every day on the edge, like as a business owner right now. Nothing really gets me down in the dumps anymore. I expect it.
Yeah.
But I also expect good things. So it's like a bit. I feel like it's a roller coaster of either one or the other. Like you get this like over emotional shit feeling one day, and the next day it seems like everything's coming back up, and you feel like over the moon over something. So it's an emotional time.
Yeah, and honestly, it's if you right now are listening, just remember this: you are living your own personal reality television show.
Yeah.
So make sure you film it.
Yeah, 100% film it all.
Put it on film.
Maybe even the stuff that you don't want other people to see.
Just put it on.
Yeah. The OnlyFans. Okay, brother. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
See you guys.